Top here, and these are 100 archaeological discoveries they won't tell you about in school. Destroyed history with water? In Spain, a 39-year-old man decided to pour water on cave paintings that are 6,000 years old to get better quality photos for his social media. He irreversibly damaged ancient imagery found in various parts of the Sierra Sur de Jaén mountain range. These cave paintings are considered part of the country's cultural heritage. The images are made on limestone that contains water-soluble salts. When water gets in, the salts dissolve and then settle on the surface, forming a crust. This leads to irreversible damage to the ancient works of art. He is currently under investigation for a crime against historical heritage. The horror of Osiris's afterlife kingdom. Today we will embark on an exciting journey to ancient Egypt, where we will unravel the mysteries of the Book of the Dead. Some might think the Book of the Dead, is that some kind of detective story or horror? But in reality, it's a collection of texts that help the deceased deal with difficulties in the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that after death we face a journey to the underworld, which they called Duat. It was a kind of land of the dead, consisting of 14 zones. Imagine a long and complicated road that you have to travel to reach eternity. But even after death, we need rules, right? The Book of the Dead acts as an instruction manual for the deceased, written on burial shrouds by priests. These texts contain special spells and magical formulas that help overcome all the difficulties along the way. If the deceased person lived a good and honest life, his soul would pass through all the zones of Duat without any problems and reach eternity. And now, the most interesting part. Upon arrival at the Hall of Two Truths, the soul faces judgment, and not just any judgment, but a divine one, led by Osiris himself. The judgment takes place in the form of weighing the heart on scales against a feather, the symbol of truth. And if the heart turned out to be heavier than the feather, then the soul would meet the terrifying monster Ammit, made up of parts of 3 dangerous animals, a crocodile, a lion, and a hippopotamus. This beast, the devourer of the dead, would take hearts weighed down by sins, and the soul would meet its end. So my friends, the Book of the Dead is not just a collection of texts. It's a real guidebook to the world beyond life, a map of the road to eternity. Remember, even in the afterlife, it's worth being honest and kind. Mystical, geological, a mystery. I'll tell you about an amazing geological mystery that happened on Anjouan Island in the Indian Ocean. Anjouan is a volcanic island that appeared when underwater tectonic plates shifted apart and magma burst out. When it cooled, basalt formed, and that's what our island is made of. But something very strange is happening on Anjouan. What do you think you can find on a volcanic island? Usually you definitely won't find quartz or quartzite there. It's a sedimentary rock similar to sandstone, which forms from quartz sand in river deltas. On a basaltic island like Anjouan, there's no quartz, and it's too young to have a river delta. But something amazing is happening. Quartzite is continuously being found on the island, and the amount is simply staggering. Geologists discovered these strange rocks more than 100 years ago. In 1900, scientists noticed unusual rocks that resembled quartzite, but at that time, the description was too scant. In 1969, they discovered a large sandstone, which turned out to be quartzite. The story repeated itself in 2017, when a French geologist discovered even more quartzite deposits. A few years later, Cornelia Class from Columbia University decided to investigate this mystery. The most interesting thing is that the local residents had known about these stones for a long time. They had been using them for sharpening their knives for decades. When the scientists conducted their research, the results were astonishing. The quartzite literally occupied half of the mountain. The mystery still hasn't been solved? As scientists suggest, a piece of quartzite from the continental crust could have somehow ended up in the ocean and risen by 4,000 meters during a volcanic eruption. But there are no traces of quartzite on the island's basalt rocks. As Class says, it's like seeing a magician who shouldn't be there. In the future, scientists hope to solve this mystery by studying the age of the quartzite. This will help to understand when and how it ended up on the volcanic island. Jade Bowls, 1980s, Ecuador. Adventurous archaeologist Elias Sotomayor sets off deep into the jungle. inspired by stories of a mysterious underground city. The city was never found, but Elias discovered amazing artifacts that glow in the dark, over 18,000 years old. And here they are, forgotten in a corner. 12 bowls and a goblet, crafted with incredible precision from hard-to-work jade. Truly a wonder. But it gets even more interesting. Each cup perfectly matches the others, and all of them exactly match the volume of the goblet. But what if, back in those ancient times, there were advanced stoneworking machines in Ecuador? And here's the cherry on top. Each cup and goblet depicts a different constellation. Just imagine the level of astronomical knowledge their creators must have had. And all of this could be connected to the legendary city of the Red Sun, which, according to myths, once existed here in Ecuador. Maybe our mysterious artifacts are all that remains of its inhabitants. Winged demon on an ancient seal. In Israel, 2,700-year-old stone seals were found with images of a winged figure and inscriptions in ancient Hebrew. The discovery near the southern wall of the Temple Mount dates to the First Temple period. The seal is made of black stone and is decorated with an inscription, which translates as, "For Yehuezer, son of Hoshayahu." Archaeologists noted that this is one of the most beautiful seals found in Jerusalem. The seal depicts a winged figure dressed in a striped shirt and a headdress. According to Assyriologist Dr. Filip Vukasevich, such winged demons are found in Neo-Assyrian art of the 9th to 7th centuries BC and served as protective magical figures. The seal probably belonged to a high-ranking official of the Kingdom of Judah and served as both an amulet and a symbol of authority. It reflects not only Assyrian influence, but also the owner's connection to the local Judean culture. A 3,000-year-old mummy. An amazing archaeological discovery was made right on a soccer field in Peru. And this is no joke. Imagine a stone tomb discovered on top of a hill near the training grounds of a soccer team in Lima, Peru. And inside it, a mummy that's 3,000 years old. And this is not just a random burial, just think about it. People who lived 3,000 years ago sacrificed one of their own right here in the temple. Experts from San Marcos University and local researchers came across hair remains and a skull in a cotton bundle during the excavation. Miguel Aguilar, an archaeologist and head of the REMAC Historical and Cultural Center, stated that the mummy belonged to a pre-Hispanic culture that flourished in the valleys of Lima between 1,500 and 1,000 BC. But it seems there is something even more astonishing. Coca leaves and shells were found along with the mummy. This indicates that all of this was part of a ritual sacrifice. Just think about it. This person was sacrificed during the construction of this temple. The fact is that in Peru, sacrifices have a long history, dating back even before the arrival of the Spanish in the 16th century. Many indigenous peoples, such as the Chavin, Moche, and Inca, believed that sacrificing humans, animals, and objects helped them communicate with the gods. In conclusion, we can say that the mummy from Peru is a window into the past that helps us better understand the history and culture of our ancestors. And I assure you we will return to this fascinating discovery in future videos. In the meantime, you can write in the comments which famous archaeological find you would like to hear about in detail in the next video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I'll continue. Pyramids. A group of researchers discovered that there were no fewer than 3 pyramids in Antarctica, and it seems that they were not created by nature, but by the hands of our distant ancestors. Antarctica is now the edge of the world, covered in ice, but once it was an oasis full of life where even dinosaurs roamed, and our discoveries there are proof of that. A total of 8 researchers from America and Europe went on the expedition. They discovered 2 pyramids 16 kilometers from the shore, and a third one right by the water. The question arises, why don't we hear about this in the news? Many claim that this information is being hidden so as not to distract us from our usual understanding of the past. And what will we see when the glaciers melt? Is it possible that besides the pyramids, another sphinx is hidden under the ice? What do you think about this? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The first astronomical observatory. A recently discovered ancient Egyptian observatory, the first of its kind, demonstrates the Egyptians' profound knowledge in astronomy and their close connection to spirituality and ritual practices. This is the largest and the first known observatory in the history of Egypt. The remains of a structure from the 6th century BC were found 3 years ago during excavations in the ancient city of Buto, now known as Tel El Farain, in the Kafr el Sheikh Governorate. Everything we found exceeded our expectations, said Qassam Ghanim, director of the Kafr el Sheikh Antiquities Authority and head of the Archaeological mission. Archaeologists discovered the ruins of an L-shaped brick building with a central area of about 850 square meters. The eastern entrance leads to a place where sunlight illuminated the observation point for the sun and stars, where the priest astronomer stood. His image has been preserved on the walls, facing the rising sun, depicting the connection of the ancient Egyptians with the cosmos. Initially, researchers thought they had discovered a temple, but the discovery of artifacts and inscriptions related to astronomy, such as sundials and other time-measuring instruments, led to the conclusion that it was an observatory. Inside the hall, astronomical images of the sunrise and sunset during the 3 seasons were found. The artifacts found, such as statues of Horus and Osiris, as well as a bronze figurine of Osiris with a snake, confirmed the importance of the observatory's spiritual and scientific role. They covered the deceased with gypsum. Archaeologists used cutting-edge technologies to shed light on one of the strangest Roman burial traditions, which involved pouring gypsum over the body of the deceased. Gypsum was poured directly into the coffin, enveloping the entire body. It created something like a 3D model of the deceased. These Roman gypsum burials are found throughout Europe and North Africa. In Roman Britain, about 45 such burials have been discovered. Scientists scanned 16 gypsum burials from the Yorkshire Museum in the United Kingdom. The scan revealed a gypsum coffin containing the remains of 2 adults and an infant who died together. And what do these 3D models give us? They captured in detail the shapes, sizes, and positions of each of the deceased, as well as how they were dressed or wrapped. It turns out that 3D visualization is a huge help in studying ancient finds. So why did the Romans engage in such a strange burial practice? Scientists suggest that this might have been related to high social status. Regardless of the reasons, this unusual burial practice turned out to be extremely useful for archaeologists. Plaster casts are preserved and retain a lot of details that are usually lost over time, including the clothing of the deceased. Skeletons in unusual graves. In the Negev desert in southern Israel, archaeologists discovered a burial site that is about 2,500 years old. Can you imagine? Inside them, there are as many as 50 skeletons, which, according to researchers, may belong to women who were sold into slavery. The tomb's shapes are the most interesting aspect of these findings. So far, we are used to seeing round-shaped burials in the Negev desert, but these 2 tombs are unique and are square in shape. Plus, they are located in a very unusual place at the intersection of 2 trade routes that once connected Egypt, Jordan, and the Arabian Peninsula. Scientists note that such burials at crossroads are not as surprising as they might seem, because people who died in the harsh conditions of the desert from disease and violence were often buried right where they died. However, in ancient times, such crossroads were considered sacred places with rituals. Now, to the most important thing. During the excavations, many artifacts were discovered dating back to around the 7th to 5th centuries BC. All of them were produced in different places: the southern Levant, the southern Arabian Peninsula, and of course, Egypt. This, as well as the jewelry and amulets found in the tombs, confirms the assumption that women who were sold into slavery and transported from Egypt are buried here. But this still needs to be confirmed. The ruins of Drevasina, the oldest civilization underwater. In the early 2000s, a team of researchers led by the Canadian company Advanced Digital Communications made a sensational discovery off the coast of Cuba. At a depth of about 600 to 750 meters on the ocean floor, strange structures resembling stone buildings were discovered. These structures looked like organized rows of giant stone blocks, some of which had a regular rectangular shape and resembled massive walls or pyramid-like buildings. The initial results of underwater research conducted using modern sonar led to the hypothesis of the possible existence of a sunken city that may have been swallowed by the ocean tens of thousands of years ago. According to some estimates, the age of these ruins may exceed 50,000 years, which is significantly older than the earliest known civilizations, such as Sumer and ancient Egypt. This makes the possible discovery even more intriguing, as it suggests the existence of ancient and possibly highly developed cultures that science knows nothing about yet. Some scientists believe that these ruins may represent the remains of an ancient city built before the last ice age, when the sea level was significantly lower. There is a theory that this area might have been inhabited by ancient peoples who were later forced to leave their homes due to the rising sea levels. This hypothesis is supported by proponents of the theory about the existence of ancient sunken continents, such as Atlantis, described in the works of Plato. Some geologists suggest that these formations may be the result of natural geological processes, such as erosion, earthquakes, and other movements of the Earth's crust. Further research and analysis of the underwater ruins off the coast of Cuba require significant resources and time. Let's hope that the authorities will find the means to study these ancient ruins. Silk Imperial Edict. In the Sisi County of Handan City in the north of Hebei Province, archaeologists discovered a unique 5-colored silk imperial edict. Apparently, it dates back to the Qing dynasty. This means it is more than 140 years old, and its size is quite impressive, 2.22 meters long and 30 centimeters wide. But what's interesting is that this decree is written in 2 languages, Chinese and Manchu. Such a linguistic palette reflects the ethno-cultural diversity that prevailed during the Qing dynasty. The decree was first issued to a noble official's family during Emperor Guangxu's reign. Such a document played a huge role in transmitting imperial directives and maintaining order within the empire. The study of such a document gives scholars incredible opportunities to explore various aspects of life during the Qing dynasty, its social culture, and etiquette. The Qing dynasty ruled over vast territories, from the Manchu homeland in the northeast to the Tibetan Plateau in the southwest. And this entire powerful empire was organized on the basis of a complex administrative system, where Manchu and Chinese traditions were blended. The influence of the Qing dynasty continues to be felt in modern Chinese culture and history. A 3,000-year-old priest's tomb, archaeologists from Japan and Peru recently discovered a 3,000-year-old priest's tomb in Cajamarca, Peru. It is older than the pyramids in Egypt. The ancient burial mound was located deep in the Andes, far from the bustling cities. Inside is a tomb containing 2 stunning ceramic seals. One depicts a human face and the other a fearsome jaguar. And believe me, to reach this treasure, archaeologists had to go through 6 layers of earth and ash. This remarkable priest was one of the first spiritual leaders in the Andes, and according to scientists, he managed the temples. This team of scientists has been digging in the Andes for 18 years, and every time they discover something new and exciting, shamans predict a disaster. In Mexico, one of the ancient pyramids used by ancient tribes for human sacrifices collapsed, raising concerns about an impending disaster. The descendants of the tribe that built the pyramid fear that the collapse could be a harbinger of a major disaster caused by natural forces or some other phenomenon. In the photos from the scene, you can see that part of the structure collapsed after a recent heavy rain. The downpour washed away one side of the pyramid. These pyramids were built by the ancestors of the modern Purépecha, a warlike people who once managed to defeat the Aztecs. Historians claim that the Yakata pyramids were used by the Purépecha tribe for ritual sacrifices to their main god, Curacaueri. Anthropologist Tarikawiri Alvarez stated that the collapse of the pyramid is a bad omen. Local shamans believe that even the fall of a single stone was a bad omen, and the collapse of an entire wall means an inevitable disaster. A similar phenomenon was observed before the arrival of the conquistadors. The oldest image in Iceland, archaeologists discovered a stone carved with a Viking ship. And the most amazing thing about this is that it might be the oldest image in the history of Iceland. It should be noted that although carved ships are found in Scandinavian culture, such a discovery in Iceland is the first of its kind. As archaeologist Bjarni Einarsson believes, this could have been the first illustration in the country's history. Work at the excavation site in Stor, began in 2015. Archaeologists returned here every summer to continue the excavations. At first, the researchers focused on the longhouse from the settlement era, but this only opened the door to the rich history of this place. How about the fact that 92 beads and 29 silver items were found in this longhouse, including coins from Rome and the Middle East? They found an even older longhouse here, which, according to archaeologists' estimates, was built around the year 800 AD. That's 75 years earlier than when Iceland became permanently settled. No remains of domestic animals were found inside, which suggests it had a special purpose. Bjarni Einarsson suggests that it could have been a seasonal hunting base from which the Vikings set out in search of valuable resources, including walrus ivory. Martian connection. This mineral was first discovered by the rover Opportunity on Mars in 2004. The mineral jarosite, which has been known on Earth since 1972, was considered an Earth mineral. It requires water, iron, sulfate, potassium, and acidity to form. All of these are present on Earth, but are rarely found on Mars. However, it turned out that there is much more jarosite on Mars than we have here. So the question arose, how could it have formed there in such large quantities? The particles found on Earth were cracked and had no sharp edges, which indicates that they formed and broke down inside the ice. And here's where it gets really interesting. Scientists suggest that on Mars, jarosite forms in the same way. An ancient city in Micronesia. This amazing complex was built on artificial islands connected by a network of canals, which is why it is often called the Venice of the Pacific Ocean. The complex includes about 100 artificial islets. The islands were created from massive basalt blocks laid out in such a way as to form walls, platforms, and buildings. Each structure is surrounded by water channels, which makes this place even more mysterious and impressive. The age of Nan Madol is estimated to be about 1,500 years. However, some studies suggest that the first structures may have appeared much earlier. Archaeologists believe that the construction of this complex began at the end of the first millennium AD, possibly under the leadership of local rulers from the Sodelur dynasty, who used Nan Madol as a ceremonial and administrative center. The main mystery of Nan Madol is how the inhabitants of Pohnpei Island were able to build such a complex and massive city with limited technology and resources. Each basalt block used in the construction weighs from several hundred kilograms to several tons. Transporting and installing such heavy blocks would have required significant effort and knowledge. Basalt was quarried on the other side of the island, which meant it had to be transported by the builders across difficult terrain and water. Considering that the ancient builders didn't have modern equipment, this achievement seems almost impossible. Some researchers suggest that the stone blocks could have been transported using rafts and ropes. Others point to the possible use of a system of levers and ramps. However, none of these theories fully explain how the ancient Micronesians managed to lay and align these massive structures so precisely. Nan Madol is also surrounded by numerous legends and myths. Local residents believe that the city possesses magical properties and that it was built using supernatural forces. Some myths claim that Nan Madol was home to spirits and was used for rituals related to ancestor worship. To this day, this ancient city inspires awe and respect among the residents of Pohnpei, and they avoid visiting Nan Madol after sunset, believing it to be a place inhabited by spirits. The ruins of Runemo, mystery or deception? Have you ever heard of an ancient dam in Sweden decorated with Viking runes? It is said that these runes were created many centuries ago, but over time, they have worn down significantly and lost their significance. For a long time, it was believed that their secrets were lost forever. However, in the 18th and 19th centuries, scholars became interested in these ancient runes again, although they could not decipher their content. Icelandic archaeologist Finn Magnusson was one of these researchers. He was a recognized expert in the field of Old Norse literature and runes. Eventually, he was able to convince the Royal Danish Academy of Sciences and Letters to fund an expedition to study the Runemo runes in 1834. When the expedition arrived at the site, Magnusson announced his astonishing discovery. He had deciphered the runes. According to him, it was a poem praising King Harold Bluetooth for his bravery in the Battle of Bravalla. This news caused a storm of excitement and was regarded as an archaeological triumph. But soon, the eminent Swedish chemist Jöns Jacob Berzelius decided to study these famous runes himself. After his research, he made a shocking statement. The carved marks were not actually runes. They turned out to be natural cracks and abrasions in the stone. This scandal cast doubt on Magnusson's reputation and led to heated discussions in the scientific community. As a result, the story of the Runemo runes remains a mystery. Some people believe that this is the lost text of an ancient poem, while others are sure that these are just natural cracks in the stone. The most interesting thing is that scientists and historians are still debating what really lies behind this ancient dam. Thanks to cases like Runemo, modern archaeologists and researchers have become more cautious in their conclusions and always verify information from multiple sources before announcing a great discovery. Nevertheless, the story of Runemo can become a fascinating and useful lesson for young researchers and all those interested in archaeology and history. It serves as a reminder of the importance of critical thinking, skepticism, and the pursuit of truth. I think each of you has similar stone dams and bridges in your city, where you can see ancient runes in the cracks. This bread has been baked for 43,000 years. In Australia, evidence was found that the Aborigines were baking bread long before the Egyptians, more than 34,000 years ago. The discovery of millstones in New South Wales indicates an ancient tradition of flour production. The Aborigines, known as hunter-gatherers, also practiced agriculture. Women collected seeds from various plants, including local grains from spinifex, sometimes even from ant nests. Flour was ground on millstones, some of which are up to 50,000 years old. The resulting flour was turned into dough and baked into nutritious bread, an important part of the Aboriginal diet. With the arrival of Europeans and the introduction of white flour, traditional bread-making methods almost disappeared. Today, there's renewed interest in these ancient techniques and the culinary heritage of Australia's Aboriginal people. Stone heads. Found in present-day Mexico, the giant stone heads of La Venta are among the most mysterious artifacts of the ancient Olmec civilization. These massive sculptures, created about 3,000 years ago, are monolithic heads carved from large basalt stones. The height of the heads ranges from 1.5 to 3.5 meters, and their weight reaches several tons. A total of 4 such heads were discovered in the territory of La Venta, each of which has unique facial features and is distinguished by the characteristic Olmec carving style. The Olmecs, one of the earliest and most mysterious civilizations of Central America, lived in the territory of what is now the state of Tabasco in Mexico. The facial features carved on the heads are often interpreted as African, which has given rise to many hypotheses and theories about possible cultural contacts between the Olmecs and other continents. However, there is no direct evidence of such contacts, and most scholars believe that these facial features were characteristic of the Olmec culture itself. Carving basalt requires significant effort and skill, especially considering the tools made from organic materials available at that time. The Olmecs apparently used primitive tools made of stone and wood, which makes their achievements in sculpture even more impressive. How they were able to achieve such a degree of detail and expressiveness remains a mystery. Another question arises regarding the transportation of these massive stones. The basalt quarry is located in the Tuxtla Mountains, about 80 kilometers from La Venta. This means that ancient craftsmen had to move huge stone blocks through dense jungles and rugged terrain. The meaning and purpose of these stone heads also remain a subject of debate among scholars. Some researchers believe that the heads depicted rulers or important members of society, possibly a warrior or a priest, which emphasized their status and significance. The expressive facial features and unique elements of the headdresses carved on the heads could have symbolized strength and power. A unique carriage in Russia. Imagine a vehicle handmade from wood. Instead of wheels, there are massive wooden discs. Instead of a body, a lattice made of interwoven rods. Interestingly, archaeologists found such a carriage in the Rostov region. It was buried in the grave of a 50-year-old man who lived in the 23rd century BC. You might ask, how could such an ancient carriage be preserved? Well, we were lucky here. The coolest part of the carriage, the frame, that is, the chassis, was preserved quite well. And you know what's interesting? The craftsmen of that time very carefully selected the wood for each part. For example, the frame was made of maple, and the wheels were made of oak. Extensive research even showed that all the trees were local. This means that the carriage was made right here. Our ancestors cut down trees in the nearby forest and used them to create their own means of transportation. The coolest thing about this story is that the ancient inhabitants of this area knew how to work with wood, weave things from twigs, and they did all this using simple bronze tools. So friends, the ancient nomads were not quite as savage as we might have imagined. They skillfully used all available resources and created truly unique things. Meat mummification. Many have heard of King Tutankhamun, but not many know that he was buried with 48 boxes of beef and poultry. To provide the pharaoh with food in the afterlife, his burial preparations included food supplies. A new study by archaeologists reveals interesting burial customs of ancient Egypt. It turns out that the meat buried with the pharaohs was mummified by treating it with special balms for preservation. This meat, called meat mummies, was common in Egyptian burials, with the oldest samples dating back more than 5,000 years, and the most recent ones about 1,600 years ago. The latest study included the analysis of 4 samples of meat mummies dated between 1,386 and 948 BC, which were found in the tombs of high-ranking individuals. Among the meat delicacies were cattle ribs, veal, and goat meat. Scientists conducted a chemical analysis of the meat and the wrappings used to cover it. They discovered that animal fat was used to coat the wrappings of the goat and the calf, indicating its use as a preservative. However, the cattle ribs contained traces of a complex balm made from fat or oil and resin from the pistachio tree, which was a luxury in ancient Egypt. About 600 years later, after being used on mummification wrappings, this balm began to be used for human mummies as well. Endless attempts to decipher the ancient text. Clay tablets inscribed with Linear A script are among the most mysterious discoveries of ancient Crete. These tablets date back to around 1800 to 1450 BC and belong to the era of the flourishing Minoan civilization, one of the earliest advanced cultures in Europe. The tablets were discovered during archaeological excavations on Crete, in places such as Knossos, Malea, Phaistos, and Aya Triada. They contain text written in the form of linear symbols, which is what gave this type of script its name. Linear A is an early writing system that preceded the better-known Linear B, which was used for writing in the Mycenaean Greek language. Unlike Linear B, which was deciphered in the mid-20th century, Linear A still remains undeciphered. The main mystery of these tablets is their unclear content, since the language they are written in is unknown and has no obvious parallels among known ancient languages. Most of these tablets pertain to administrative and accounting records, which is typical for ancient writing systems. However, without the ability to read these texts, archaeologists and historians are limited in their understanding of the most important aspects of Minoan society, including its economy, religious rituals, and daily life. Endless attempts to decipher Linear A continue, and every new artifact discovered during excavations brings hope for unraveling this ancient mystery. The girls' funerary ornaments. Archaeologists studied the finds made on Mount Scopus in Israel and discovered a lead coffin with treasures such as gold earrings, a hairpin, a gold pendant, gold beads, carnelian beads, and glass beads. These ornaments were found by the archaeologist Aidan L. Adler back in 1971, but only now have they been studied and published. The team of archaeologists studied the newly discovered treasures. They consider this a very valuable find. Symbols of the Roman goddess of the moon, the patroness of young girls, were found on part of the ornament. If a girl died young, ornaments with the goddess's symbols were placed in the grave for protection in the afterlife. Other gold earrings and ornaments were found during excavations on the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem in 1975. Such burials and ornaments are well known in the Roman world and allow us to draw conclusions about the population of Judea during that period. After the destruction of the Jerusalem temple and the expulsion of the Jews, the city was settled by immigrants from the Roman Empire. The burial of a young girl with her jewelry is a touching archaeological find. We can imagine how her parents or relatives placed these valuables in her grave, hoping they would help protect the girl in the next world. Despite the centuries that have passed, we can all understand these feelings of loss and the desire to protect one's child no matter what. Thus, these archaeological finds help scientists better understand the history and culture of the population of Judea during the late Roman Empire. These ornaments and burials of young girls indicate a mixed population made up of settlers from different parts of the Roman Empire, as well as the beliefs and rituals they brought to the city. Stonehenge doesn't even come close. The stone circles of Senegambia, located in present-day Senegal and Gambia, are one of the most mysterious and impressive archaeological discoveries in West Africa. These megalithic structures, consisting of thousands of individual stones, are arranged in circles and lines covering more than 30,000 square kilometers. They are known as the megalithic complexes of Senengain and Vaishu in Senegal, as well as Kerbach and Vanyak in Gambia. The age of these stone circles is estimated to be about 1,500 years, although some of them may be significantly older, suggesting prolonged use and importance of these sites for local ancient cultures. Each stone circle consists of massive pillars with heights ranging from 1 to 2.5 meters, and the diameter of the circles can reach up to 8 meters. On average, each stone weighs about 7 tons. The complex includes more than 1,700 individual circles, making it one of the largest collections of megaliths in the world. These stone circles are often compared to Stonehenge because of their mysterious origin and unknown purpose. However, Stonehenge doesn't even come close to the scale of the stone circles of Senegambia. The purpose of this gigantic structure still remains a subject of discussion and research. One of the most popular theories is their ritual and ceremonial significance. The stone circles could have served as places for religious ceremonies, gatherings, and burials. Indeed, burial mounds have been found near some of the circles, which supports the idea of funerary rituals. In some places, artifacts such as pottery and iron tools have been found, which could have been used in rituals or as offerings. Some scholars believe that the arrangement of the stones is connected to observations of the movements of the sun, moon, and stars, and could have been used to determine calendar cycles or to hold important agricultural festivals. The ancient builders used local materials such as laterite stones, but the technique of processing and installing them is still unclear. An iPhone was noticed in the painting. What the researchers discovered next raises a lot of questions. I'll tell you about a mysterious 19th century painting that, according to rumors, depicts an iPhone. The painting is called The Engagement of Burns and Mary. It features the famous Scottish poet Robert Burns and his beloved Mary Campbell. And here's what's interesting. In the hands of both characters, you can notice a strange dark rectangle with rounded corners. This is exactly what sparked a wave of discussions on the internet. After all, in shape and size, this object looks very much like one of the first iPhones. But here's the catch, friends. The painting was created in 1882, which is 125 years before the first iPhone appeared. Now, art lovers all over the world are trying to solve this mystery. Many suggest that it could be time travel. Others claim that it could simply be a prayer book, which people often carried with them in those days. In any case, we know one thing. People's love for mysteries and secrets never fades. And this isn't the first painting where a smartphone has been noticed. Let's remember the painting Mr. Pinchon and the Settlement of Springfield, painted by Umberto Romano in 1937. There, too, an object resembling a cell phone appeared. But what is it really? A mirror? A knife? A prayer book? Or maybe a smartphone after all? It's still not known for sure. In any case, it leaves room for your guesses and imagination. Write in the comments what you think. The mysterious cave. Scientists discovered a mysterious object in Antarctica using Google Maps. It's not just an object, it's a cave hidden beneath the glaciers. Scientists published a video on YouTube showing the cave's vaulted ceiling. Some people believe that the cave could have been man-made. The video shows a perfectly formed vaulted ceiling, 23 meters high and 76 meters wide. Scientists notice strange paths and steps at the entrance to the cave, which gives reason to think they might be of artificial origin. Others think it's a secret facility for UFOs or a top-secret military base. There are also those who believe it's the remains of structures from an ancient civilization. Mainstream science has stayed quiet so far, but everyone agrees. With global warming, Antarctica will reveal many more secrets. Voids. Scientists want to perform an ultrasound scan on a huge pyramid that's 140 meters tall. They plan to use large telescopes to search for particles that will help us see what's hidden inside. The most interesting thing is that cosmic rays are used for this. They will help reveal the mystery of two enigmatic voids inside the pyramid. One of them is located right above the large passage leading to the king's chamber. Its size is impressive, 30 meters long and 6 meters high. Scientists are not yet sure what awaits us inside. It could be one large space or a series of small rooms. It might be the hidden burial chamber of Khufu, or perhaps this place played a role during the construction of the pyramid. To solve this mystery, scientists use muons, elementary particles that are formed when cosmic rays collide with atoms in the Earth's atmosphere. With their help, it's possible to create a map of the voids inside the pyramid. Muons behave differently when interacting with different materials, such as stone or air. This way, scientists can use muons to see what can't be seen with the naked eye. The connection between ancient Egypt and the Bible. The Epuwer Papyrus, also known as the Admonitions of Epuwer, is an ancient Egyptian text written on papyrus, which is currently kept in the Leiden Museum in the Netherlands. This document dates back to the end of the Middle Kingdom of Egypt, around 1800 BC, although the copy of the papyrus may have been created much later. The papyrus is written in the form of a poetic monologue in which the narrator, Epuwer, describes the catastrophic disasters that struck Egypt. The text tells of social unrest, natural disasters, mass famine, and the destruction of public order, making it a unique source for understanding ancient Egyptian views on crises and chaos. One of the mysteries of the Epuwer Papyrus is its possible connection to real historical events. Some researchers believe that the papyrus does not describe specific events, but rather offers a literary interpretation of general ideas about chaos and social disorder characteristic of Egyptian thought. At the same time, the content of the text has led to hypotheses that it may reflect a real historical upheaval, possibly related to the decline of the Middle Kingdom or other catastrophes. Interest in the Epuwer Papyrus also arose because of its parallels with the biblical plagues of Egypt described in the book of Exodus. Descriptions of blood turning the river red, darkness, and mass death resonate in both texts. Nevertheless, the exact connection between the Epuwer Papyrus and the biblical events remains disputed, as there is no convincing evidence of a direct historical link. The cup of an ancient ruler. In 2014, archaeologists in Athens made a surprising discovery: a wine cup broken into 12 pieces which scientists believe belonged to Pericles, the legendary Athenian leader whose rule marked the golden age for Athens. This historical artifact is now housed in the city's epigraphic museum. The most intriguing aspect of this find is the inscription, which includes the names of 7 men, among them Pericles, and presumably his brother, Ariphron. The inscriptions engraved on the cup became visible only upon close examination of the artifact. The name Ariphron, standing next to the name Pericles, indicates a deep connection between these figures. It is assumed that the cup was used in Pericles' youth at a wine symposium, where participants traditionally engraved their names as a memento of the gathering. The discovery provides a unique insight into the culture and customs of ancient Greek society, allowing us to look into the past and feel a connection between eras. Cybele on a chariot. A medallion depicting Cybele on a chariot, dated to the 2nd century BC, is a unique work of art from the Greco-Bactrian kingdom. This kingdom arose in a region that is now part of modern Afghanistan and was established by Greek conquerors after Alexander the Great. Cybele, the mother goddess of nature and fertility, was a cult figure in several ancient religions, and her depiction on the medallion speaks to the blending of cultures and religious practices in the Greco-Bactrian kingdom. On the medallion, Cybele is depicted driving a chariot drawn by lions, symbolizing her dominant role in nature and the cosmos. The mysterious pyramids of Sedinga. This complex, discovered by archaeologists at the end of the 20th century, includes more than 80 pyramids, making it one of the largest burial sites in the Nubian Desert, which is in Sudan. The pyramids of Sedinga were built during a period when Nubia was under the influence of ancient Egypt, and the rulers of the Kingdom of Kush sought to imitate Egyptian traditions and architecture. Most of the pyramids of Sedinga are small in size compared to the Egyptian pyramids, with an average height ranging from 3 to 7 meters. They were built from sandstone and brick and were used as burial places for the nobility and members of the ruling elite. Archaeologists have found ceramics, jewelry, and also mummy remains in these pyramids, which indicates the high level of skill of Nubian craftsmen. One of the mysteries of the Sedinga pyramids is their large number in a relatively small area, which makes this complex unique. The construction of such a large number of pyramids may indicate the important religious and cultural significance of this place for the ancient Nubians. Sedinga was also a place of worship for the goddess Hathor, who played a key role in the religious life of Nubia. The log coffin culture. The ancient heritage left by the culture that flourished in the northwest of Thailand surprises archaeologists with its unique burial customs. About 40 burial sites where people found their final resting place in teak coffins decorated with intricate patterns testify to a highly developed Iron Age culture. Researchers from Germany and Thailand analyzed the DNA of ancient people to reveal the connections between different communities. Between 2300 and 1000 BCE, a mysterious culture flourished in the province of Mae Hong Son. DNA analysis of 33 ancient people from 5 coffins showed that genetic kinship played a key role in burial traditions, highlighting the importance of family ties in the choice of burial sites. This study was a breakthrough in Southeast Asian archaeology, presenting the first analysis of genetic and cultural connections at the level of ancient communities. Despite the challenges of DNA preservation in the tropical climate, scientists identified 2 main genetic lineages associated with agriculture, indicating deep connections with the Yangtze and Yellow River valleys in China. Ruins of Nero's theater. Archaeologists in Rome have found the ruins of a theater where, they believe, Emperor Nero himself, known for his cruelty and ambition, performed. Let me remind you that he even ordered the killing of his own mother and set fire to early Christians. This theater is mentioned in the texts of such renowned historians as Pliny the Elder, Suetonius, and Tacitus. The ruins were discovered beneath the garden of the planned Four Seasons Hotel, just steps from the Vatican. Archaeologists are working in the garden of the Palazzo della Rovere, a beautiful old palace now owned by the Order of the Holy Sepulchre. By the way, the hotel is scheduled to open in 2025, just in time for the Vatican Jubilee. It's expected that 30 million people will come to Rome. The archaeologists call the results of the excavation exceptional. They discovered colored glass bowls and ceramic items from the 10th century, as well as marble columns and gold-plated elements. All of this helped them conclude that the majestic theater of Nero was indeed here, near the Tiber River. Discovery of the century. Research in the caves of the Danube Valley in southern Germany shows that Stone Age people were not just cave savages. The discoveries made in the Swabian Jura show what remarkable artistic abilities our ancestors had about 45,000 years ago. The Swabian Jura may be the cradle of modern humans in Europe. This is evidenced by the figurines made from mammoth tusks found here. They are up to 40,000 years old. A recent discovery in the karst cave Hohlefels, located near Blaubeuren, confirms this assumption. During the excavation, a student from the institute found an animal figurine about 6 centimeters long. Although its head is missing, scientists believe it is a depiction of an otter. Archaeologists call this artifact the Find of the Year. About 45,000 years ago, Homo sapiens arrived in the Danube region, living alongside Neanderthals. Previously, it was believed that modern humans were more actively settling in the territory of present-day France, as evidenced by the discoveries of cave paintings. However, The figurines from the Swabian Jura change our understanding of how ancient people spread and lived in Europe. The caves of the Swabian Jura have been studied since the mid-19th century. The findings include stone and bone tools, as well as ornaments, which provide important information about the lives of Neanderthals and other early representatives of humanity. In the mid-20th century, the Nazi organization Ahnenerbe also conducted excavations here, seeking to find evidence of the existence of ancient Aryans. In recent years, excavations in the caves have resumed, and new discoveries have been made, including a figurine of a woman known as the Venus of Hohlfels. This image, with its ample breasts and pronounced feminine features, likely symbolized fertility. Other finds, such as ancient flutes made from bird bones, indicate a high level of spirituality and art among our ancestors. Stonehenge in the Netherlands. Archaeologists from Holland have discovered a treasure that they call the Stonehenge of the Netherlands. And this is not just some ordinary structure. It is 4,000 years old. In the center of the Netherlands, in the city of Tiel, scientists have discovered a sanctuary featuring burial mounds and ditches. Important artifacts have been found here: animal skeletons, human skulls, and even a bronze spearhead. The oldest of them date back to 2500 BC. In just one burial mound, archaeologists discovered about 60 remains of men, women, and children, and more in 20 other mounds at the nearby cemetery. Researchers believe that the sanctuary was designed so that sunlight would pass directly through it on the longest and shortest days of the year. Stonehenge functioned in exactly the same way. This solar calendar helped ancient people determine important events, such as major festivals and harvest days. But the main sensation is found in the oldest part of the burial mound. There, they discovered the remains of a woman buried with a bead made of green coral glass. This is the oldest bead ever found in the Netherlands. Analysis showed that it came all the way from Mesopotamia, which is modern-day Iraq. This means that people here, more than 4,000 years ago, could have been in contact with people as far as 5,000 kilometers away. Scientists spent 6 years excavating and analyzing the finds. In total, more than 1 million artifacts from different eras were discovered, from the Stone Age to the Middle Ages. Soon, some of them will be exhibited in the museums of Tiel and in the Dutch National Museum of Antiquities. Secret rooms. So what could be hidden inside the pyramids? There are many theories about this, from religious artifacts and treasures to ancient scrolls full of knowledge. And some are even convinced that artifacts of cosmic gods could be hidden in the secret chambers of the Egyptian pyramids. Do you remember the story from the 90s when a robot lowered into one of the shafts encountered mysterious doors? Ancient Greek and Roman scientists were captivated by the pyramid builders' craftsmanship, and medieval Arab chroniclers, such as al-Masudi and al-Idrisi, wrote about wonders, gold, and mummies that might have been found inside. But not all scholars agree that the pyramids served only as tombs. Supporters of alternative history claim that the Great Pyramid could have been a time capsule, a repository of knowledge from an ancient civilization that became the foundation of ancient Egypt. And there is an even more exotic theory from Christopher Dunn, who suggested that the Great Pyramid could have been nothing less than a power plant. And don't forget about the Hall of Records, the legendary ancient library where, according to some researchers, all the knowledge of the ancients is stored, knowledge that could shake the very foundations of our understanding of the world. Ring 6. Assos is an ancient city with a rich history, founded in the 7th century BC. In this ancient city, located in the southwest of the Biga Peninsula in Turkey, archaeologists found a Roman ring depicting Athena, the revered goddess of Assos. The ring was found in a building known as the Zynodokion, which served as a hostel in ancient times. Assos, founded by Greek settlers from the island of Lesbos, has deep historical roots going back to the Bronze Age. Athena, daughter of Zeus and one of the main deities of Olympus, became the patron of the city. Assos was an important regional center and is mentioned in ancient texts alongside the cities of Osuva and Pedassos. Excavations in Assos have been ongoing for almost 40 years under the supervision of Turkish archaeologists. A ring with an image of Athena, discovered in the Zynodokion, likely belonged to a high-ranking resident of the city and was used as a seal, similar to modern signatures. According to our estimates, the artifact dates back to the 2nd to 3rd centuries AD. In the 6th century BC, the city of Assos was under the rule of Lydia, then became part of the Persian Empire, and later joined the Athenian Confederation. The city once again came under Persian control until Alexander the Great liberated it in 334 BC. Later, Assos became part of the Pergamon kingdom, and then became part of the Roman Empire. Over time, the city lost its significance, passing under the rule of the Byzantines, Seljuks, Franks, and Ottomans until the year 1330. A cosmetic spoon with a naked girl. Raise your hands if you love jewelry and face masks. What if I tell you about a piece of jewelry that also held your favorite fragrant oils? Let's take a journey back to ancient Egypt, where a girl lived who could have been a top model today. This girl is actually a cosmetic spoon made from ivory and ebony and painted in bright colors. It was a special kind of cosmetic spoon used to store cosmetics or aromatic oils. In fact, it was an entire tradition in ancient Egypt during the times of the 18th and 19th dynasties. Our little model was carved to look like a pink lotus flower, with a lid that can be opened and closed. Her face is adorned with a black wig made of ebony wood, and her neck with a necklace of lotus petals. She has a tattoo on her waist, and on her hips are images of dwarf gods who protected the home and family. This cosmetic spoon was found in Thebes in the early 1900s and is now in Moscow at the Pushkin State Museum of Fine Arts in the Hall of Ancient Egyptian Art. And if you noticed, our spoon girl has very long legs. In ancient Egypt, art often depicted women with disproportionately long legs. It was a kind of beauty standard of that time. Who knows, maybe they were the first models in the world. The Maya and extraterrestrial civilizations. How can we explain the existence of artifacts depicting spaceships, a calendar that works to this day, and perfectly smooth crystal skulls? And all this comes from a civilization about which official history says something different. The secret might lie with extraterrestrial visitors. Yes, you heard that right. One of the Mayan gods, Kukulkan, whom the Aztecs knew as Quetzalcoatl, was supposedly an alien from another planet. He taught the Maya such complex sciences as agriculture, mathematics, medicine, and astronomy. And the Maya also knew about planets that were only discovered several centuries later. In the 1930s, scientists in Guatemala discovered a sandstone head, which can no longer be studied because it was used as a target during the military operations. But it adds even more intrigue to our story because its facial features are nothing like those of the Maya or other peoples of that region. Did you know that many of the Maya books, which according to legends were burned, actually ended up in the Vatican? It was these books that were used to create the Gregorian calendar, which is now used all over the world. All these facts only confirm that the Maya could have communicated with an extraterrestrial civilization. The stepped pyramids in Spain, the pyramids of Guimar, are a unique archaeological complex located on the island of Tenerife, one of the Canary Islands belonging to Spain. These pyramid structures, built from basalt stones, attract the attention of researchers and tourists thanks to their mysterious history and unusual architecture. There are a total of 6 pyramids within the complex, which have a stepped shape and terraced bases, reminiscent of the structures of ancient Mesoamerican civilizations. Some researchers believe that the pyramids were built by the ancient Aboriginal people of the Canary Islands, the Guanches, who used them for ritual and religious purposes. In support of this theory, they point to the similarity of the Guimar pyramids with other ancient structures that were used for worshiping gods and conducting ceremonies. However, there is also an alternative point of view suggesting that the pyramids were built in the 19th century as part of agricultural terraces. A distinctive feature of the Guimar pyramids is their orientation in relation to astronomical events. Studies have shown that the pyramids are constructed in such a way as to be oriented towards the solstice. On the day of the summer solstice, you can observe a unique phenomenon when the shadow of the pyramids aligns perfectly with other shadows, creating the effect of a double sunset. This astronomical alignment suggests the possible use of the pyramids as an observatory or for conducting calendar rituals. Genetic discs. Imagine we only started using microscopes a couple of centuries ago, and we've only been studying genetics for about 100 to 150 years. And then, bam, they find a 6,000-year-old stone disc in South America with scenes depicted at a microscopic level. How can you explain something like that? This disc is known as the genetic disc, respected among archaeologists as a true relic. It is made of leadite, a hard basalt rock, weighs about 2 kilograms and has a diameter of 22 centimeters. But the real shock is the symbols that are depicted on it. Just think about it. Sperm cells, egg cells, fertilization, and the stages of fetal development. All of this is drawn in chronological order. And if you turn the disc over, you can see moments of cell division and even the development of amphibians. Don't be alarmed, even archaeologists are shocked. Now think about this. Such a disc was found in Colombia among 6,000-year-old artifacts. But at the same time, it doesn't look like any pre-Columbian artifact, and the symbols on it are unknown. Could it be even older? How could an ancient civilization create something like this? And to know things that we've only discovered in the last couple of centuries? It's such a mysterious object that some have even suggested it was created by the serpent people. Well, there really is a serpent on the disc. This disc calls into question our entire understanding of South American culture. Some believe it's a fake, but we do know that South America is full of mysteries. Tutankhamun's folding camp bed. In a recently published report by Japanese researchers, it is stated that the unique folding bed from Pharaoh Tutankhamun's tomb represents a true technological breakthrough of its time. This unique folding bed, discovered in 1922 by Howard Carter, impresses with its design. It can fold into a Z shape. Architect Nyoku Nishimoto, who specializes in the history of furniture, emphasizes the uniqueness of this find. Although other simpler models of folding beds have been discovered, this 3-section bed is something special. Nishimoto claims that the craftsman who created this piece demonstrated a true engineering marvel. Even the bed legs, decorated in the shape of lion's paws, are equipped with complex hinges, which allowed them to be folded. These details were most likely created using a trial-and-error method, which indicates the deep intelligence and ingenuity of the craftsman. Despite the technological sophistication of the bed, it is unlikely that the young pharaoh Tutankhamun ever actually used it, since his health and lifestyle did not allow for it. As scientists suggest, this bed was part of the burial treasure, symbolizing eternal comfort in the afterlife. An ancient temple at the bottom of the sea. In Italy, off the coast of Pozzuoli, on the Phlegraean Peninsula, archaeologists discovered the ruins of an ancient Nabatean temple at the bottom of the sea. The Nabatean kingdom was an ally of Rome. They ruled vast territories and important trade routes. The ancient city of Pozzuoli, formerly Puteoli, was a center for exporting goods from Campania. The Nabateans settled there, building warehouses, a shop, and a wholesale depot. They may have also built a sanctuary, recently found by underwater archaeologists dedicated to the god Dushara. Archaeologists found 2 marble altars from the early 1st century AD. This discovery became the key to solving an ancient mystery. Scientists knew that foreigners lived in Puteoli and were engaged in trade. The area where they lived was called Vicus Lartidianus, but its exact location was unknown. The discovery of the temple allowed archaeologists to determine the area's location. Underwater research also uncovered ancient roads and remains of administrative buildings. Scientists believe that part of the city went underwater thousands of years ago due to volcanic activity. This discovery shed light on the history of this ancient region and its inhabitants. This find was excavated for 12 days. Archaeologists from the University of Iowa spent 12 days excavating several mastodon skull bones that were discovered by a local resident. The age of these remains is about 13,600 years. The mastodon was a long extinct distant relative of modern elephants. The discovery of a young mastodon's tooth suggests the possibility of finding other bones in this area. Stone tools were also found during the excavation, but they date to a later period and are several thousand years younger than the mastodon. Mastodons, although they were about the same age as modern elephants, had a more massive build and weighed up to 6 tons. They disappeared soon after the arrival of the first humans in North America, about 14,000 years ago. similar to other megafauna species. The last known mastodon was found in peat near Lake Pleasant in Michigan. Its age is about 10,500 years. Traces of hunting were found on its bones. Mastodons preferred forested areas. Their teeth were adapted for chewing tough branches and shrubs, unlike mammoths, which fed on grasses and grains on the plains. Scientists drank water that was 2.6 billion years old. As soon as the world calmed down after the pandemic, scientists decided to conduct a new, unusual experiment. Apparently, without much hesitation, they decided to taste water that was 2.6 billion years old. The water has been preserved since the time when there was not even free oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere, and the first multicellular organisms began to appear almost a billion years later. This water was not like the kind we are used to seeing. It was salty and viscous. But is it really water? The water was discovered in thin cracks of granite in a Canadian mine. The source was located several kilometers below the Earth's surface. Canadian geologist and geochemist Professor Barbara Sherwood Lawler decided to taste the oldest water on the planet. She is known for her research on water resources. I can't even imagine how much water she has tasted throughout her life. According to her, the water turned out to be salty, viscous, and had the consistency of light maple syrup. The liquid is extremely salty due to the reaction between the water and the rock, and it also has a higher viscosity than tap water. It also turned orange as minerals began to form in it. While someone is tasting this viscous liquid from deep within the earth, let me tell you about the oldest skates from China. Rock paintings in Somaliland. The Lasgil Cave Painting Complex, located in Somaliland, is one of the most impressive and mysterious archaeological sites in Africa. These rock paintings, which are about 9,000 years old, demonstrate a high level of skill and detail, making them unique among other similar sites. The paintings are located in a series of caves and shelters, protected from the weather, which has allowed them to be well preserved to this day. On the walls of the caves, there are scenes from the daily life of ancient people, including hunting scenes, rituals, and worship, as well as images of domestic animals such as cattle. Particular attention is drawn to the images of anthropomorphic figures, created with striking realism and vivid colors. The figures of people and animals are decorated with various patterns, which indicates the complex social and religious beliefs of the ancient artists. Some images include scenes with people holding hands or performing ritual movements, which may indicate religious or cultural ceremonies. Images of cows with richly decorated horns may show how important cattle breeding was to the ancient people of the region. Ancient Roman giant. Near Rome, archaeologists discovered a unique ancient skeleton of a person with gigantism. Standing at 202 cm tall, the man stood out among his 3rd century contemporaries, whose average height was about 167 centimeters. Gigantism is an extremely rare condition, affecting about 3 people per million, and is associated with pituitary gland dysfunction during childhood. Previously, partial skeletons were found in Poland and Egypt, which were thought to indicate gigantism. However, the Roman discovery became the first confirmed case from ancient times. The skeleton was found in 1991 during excavations of a necropolis in Fidene, under Roman rule. The archaeological team immediately noted the unusual length of the tomb, and later studies confirmed the peculiarities of the bones. Researchers found skull damage consistent with a pituitary tumor, as well as disproportionately long limbs and signs of bone growth in early adulthood. The early death of the man, presumably between the ages of 16 and 20, may indicate issues related to gigantism. The skeleton was found without any burial goods, and his burial did not differ from the traditions of that time, which suggests that he was accepted by society. The symbolism of this find highlights the interest of the Roman upper class in people with physical anomalies. Ancient 5,000-year-old ziggurat. Sialk is an archaeological site located in the city of Kashan, Iran. The locals considered it a cursed city that should be avoided. However, a severe flood that occurred in 1930 helped to reveal the history of the hills, dating back to around the 3rd millennium BCE. The structure itself is a ziggurat, a stepped cult building in ancient Mesopotamia made primarily of clay. Ziggurats were the first centers of science in human history, where priests observed celestial bodies and the life of the universe. It is believed that the oldest ziggurat is located in the suburbs of the city of Kashan in central Iran. It was built around the 3rd millennium BC. After the flood in 1930, a group of researchers led by the French archaeologist of Ukrainian origin, Roman Gershman, went to Iran for excavations. However, the results of their work did not attract official attention until 2001. According to the estimates of researcher Gershman, this ancient civilization is more than 10,000 years old. The structure is in poor condition, like many other ancient ruins in Iran. Sialk was built by Elam, one of the most ancient civilizations in history, located in the southwest of Iran. Elam built 4 ziggurats, including Sialk. During the excavations, various artifacts were found, including pottery, glass, metal objects, jewelry, and coins, which testify to the wealth and diversity of the ancient culture of Sialk. Ancient texts in the Elamite language were also discovered, which was widespread in the region for several millennia before the Common Era. One of the most interesting artifacts found in Sialk is a cast image of the goddess Nana, which is believed to date back to the 3rd or 2nd millennium BCE. Nana was the goddess of fertility and motherhood, and her cult was widespread in ancient Mesopotamia and Iran. In addition, a large collection of stone sculptures was found in Sialk, which depict animals, people, and gods. They were made in various styles and techniques, which testifies to the richness and diversity of the artistic culture of ancient Iran. The stone toy puzzled the scientists. During excavations in Iceland, an ancient stone figurine resembling a children's toy was discovered. The find was made in Seyðisfjörður and dates back to the Viking Age. The figurine depicts a 4-legged animal with a broken ear. Most archaeologists believe it is a pig, since the Vikings raised pigs for meat. However, some researchers have suggested that the figurine might depict a bear, even though bears are not native to Iceland. After the photos were published on social media, many users expressed the opinion that it is an image of an Icelandic dog. The head of the excavation, Ragnheiður Traustadóttir, is skeptical about this version, noting that the facial features do not match those of a dog, based on her many years of experience owning an Icelandic dog. The excavations in Seyðisfjörður, which began in 2020, have already yielded many interesting finds, including burial mounds, sheepfolds, Viking graves, and about 4,000 artifacts. The figurine's exact purpose is unclear, but it may have been carved to entertain children on winter evenings. The wealth of the ancient elite. In the city of Larnaca on Cyprus, there is Hala Sultan Tekke, a place where it is said the Prophet Muhammad's aunt Haram is buried. But this city has another unique story, which begins 3,300 years ago. In ancient times, this small city was a picturesque trading post where the world-famous copper reserves were managed. Because of its success in copper mining, the city attracted many members of the elite of that time, which is confirmed by the recent discovery of royal tombs. These tombs turned out to be a storehouse of historical treasures, containing more than 500 high-quality burial items. Thanks to the diligence of local farmers who stumbled upon a fragment of ancient pottery, archaeologists discovered these amazing finds using modern ground scanning equipment. Inside these tombs, deep underground, researchers discovered an amazing collection of items decorated with gold, precious stones, and ivory. Among the finds were the stunning remains of a woman, accompanied by painted ceramic vessels and a bronze mirror, and next to her, a 1-year-old child with a ceramic toy. Analysis showed that the gold and ivory came from Egypt, while the blue lapis lazuli and turquoise came from Afghanistan, India, and Sinai. The ceramics were brought from Greece, Turkey, Syria, Palestine, and Egypt. It's no surprise that the elite of that time could afford such luxury, since the copper they mined and sold to neighboring cultures was a vital resource, as bronze was made from it, and tin. Ancient Roman wine bottle. An ancient Roman wine bottle dated to 325 AD is considered one of the oldest surviving wine bottles in the world. It was discovered in 1867 in the area of the city of Speyer in Germany during the excavation of a tomb. The vessel is made of glass and has an elongated shape with a narrow neck. Inside the bottle, the wine turned into a solid substance over the centuries. But thanks to the airtight stopper made of olive wood and wax, the contents of the bottle remained untouched. Although modern researchers and winemaking experts do not recommend tasting this ancient beverage, it serves as a unique testament to the winemaking art of ancient Rome. The bottle is now kept in the Historical Museum of the city of Speyer and is one of its main exhibits. Sarcophagi archaeologists have discovered unique tombs and burial masts that are as much as 4,500 years old, and they were found near the pyramids of Giza, in the heart of the oldest necropolis. Several tombs from the era of the Old Kingdom were discovered there, the oldest of which dates back to the 25th century. BC ancient inscriptions and decorations have been preserved in it. In one of the tombs was Pekwang, the chief court judge and priest of the goddess Mot. He oversaw purification rituals in the pyramid temples of kings Khafra, Userkaf, and Nusera. The second occupant of the tomb was his relative Nui, a nobleman with 5 court titles and a priest in the temple of Khafra. Excavations began in August 2018, and to reach these tombs, about 450,000 cubic meters of sand had to be moved. Some tombs were looted in ancient times but were reused for burials in the 7th and 6th centuries BC. Thanks to this, among the later wooden sarcophagi, amazing works of art were found, magnificent clay and wooden funerary masks. And all this was found not far from the cemetery of the pyramid builders. This proves that the pyramids were not built by slaves, but by ordinary people who were buried next to their kings. Ancient graffiti in the Sigiriya fortress are unique inscriptions found on the walls of the ancient Sigiriya fortress, located on top of a monolithic rock in the central part of Sri Lanka. These graffiti represent one of the most important collections of ancient inscriptions on the island, dating approximately from the 5th to the 8th centuries AD. They were left by visitors to the fortress, including poets, pilgrims, and travelers, on the mirror walls polished to a shine that once adorned the inner halls and corridors of the palace. The Sigiriya graffiti consist of poetic lines, comments, and personal impressions written in the Sinhalese language using ancient forms of script. Despite their historical value, the interpretation of the Sigiriya graffiti is a subject of debate among historians. Questions about who exactly left these inscriptions, their social status, motives, and purposes remain unanswered. Some researchers believe that the graffiti were created by members of the upper classes who visited the palace. Others suggest that they could have belonged to pilgrims and merchants, indicating that the fortress was accessible to the general public. 3 skulls and technological devices. Let's talk about a mystery that I managed to discover literally while digging through the internet. And although there is little information about this, and not a single article has been confirmed by official sources, I feel that I simply have to share this with you. In 2014, in Antarctica, Russian scientists, according to some reports, found 3 human skulls that are more than 80,000 years old. They found them in a thawed-out cave. It is reported that the Russian researchers got there before their American colleagues, despite the Americans' strong desire to get there. This story became a hot topic among supporters of the theory that Atlantis and Hyperborea existed. Some claim that the skulls belong to representatives of these mythical civilizations. According to reports in 2019, an article appeared stating that the skulls were elongated, like those of Peruvians from the Paraxes caves. But here's the hitch. After 2019, there was even less information. But an interesting detail came from America. Steve Alex Bonnet, a former polar explorer, stated in one of the podcasts that the Russians found not only skulls but also technologies of ancient civilizations. Moreover, he suggested that this civilization could have been extraterrestrial. Maybe all of this is just made up, but let's imagine that it's true. Then the Russian polar explorers found technology from an ancient civilization, possibly even from aliens. And it's not surprising that the Academy of Sciences is trying to hide this information. If this is true, the polar explorers delivered the artifacts to scientific institutes where they are now being studied. And who knows, maybe soon we'll learn about new technological breakthroughs thanks to their work. So let's wish the scientists good luck and dive into the next archaeological cache together. Aeneas's water telegraph. Long before phones and television, telecommunications have ancient roots. One of the earliest ways to transmit messages over a distance was by using smoke of different colors. In ancient Greece, around 350 BC Aeneas, the tactician is credited with inventing the water telegraph. The system consisted of 2 jars of water and a stick with messages. When sending a signal, both people would open the taps and a floating tablet would display the same message. In Britain, Francis Wishaw created a more complex water-based system that transmitted messages by changing the water pressure. Despite its innovation, this system did not catch on. These ancient methods, although they may seem outdated, are the predecessors of modern communication technologies and serve as a reminder of humanity's constant drive to improve the way information is shared. Mini sundials. Near the castle in the city of Marburg, Germany, students discovered a real treasure: pocket sundials made of wood and bronze from the Middle Ages. This is an amazing discovery that has sparked great interest among archaeologists. This device, about the size of a matchbox, could have belonged to monks from the Brotherhood of Common Life, a Catholic order that lived in this area until 1527. Today, Marburg University, the first Protestant university in Germany, is located on this site. Students from this university discovered this amazing clock during summer field excavations. The head of the excavation, Professor Felix Teichner, called this discovery sensational. People in the past had to combine knowledge in astronomy and mathematics with the craftsmanship of artisans to create such an amazing device. This academic year was especially important for Marburg, as the city celebrated its 700th anniversary. Burial of an ancestor of the Germans. Archaeologists discovered the burial of a man who belonged to the Alemanni people, who lived in the territory of modern Germany almost 2,000 years ago. Although only one burial has been found so far, researchers suggest that there may be more similar discoveries in this area. During rescue excavations in Gerstetten, Germany, carried out as part of preparations for housing construction, archaeologists found a Germanic chamber grave. The Alemanni, a confederation of Germanic tribes, were first mentioned in 213 AD and were known for their settlement on the eastern bank of the Rhine River. During the excavation, the team discovered a wooden structure with the remains of a man. Artifacts were found near his skeleton, such as ceramic and glass vessels, a decorated comb, and a high-status glass goblet, probably from the nearby late Roman fort of Guntia Gunzburg. A sample of the man's rib was sent for radiocarbon analysis to a laboratory in Mannheim, the results of which confirmed that the man likely died between 263 and 342 AD. An artifact of an unknown civilization. How about a journey into the past where archaeological discoveries challenge everything we know about our history? It all began in February 1961. 3 adventurers, Wallace Lane, Virginia Maxey, and Mike Meixel, went hiking on Mount Coso to add to their collection of antiquities. Imagine their surprise when, among the ordinary mountain rocks, they found a stone that simply couldn't have been there. A day later, Mike decided to work on the stone and discovered something incredible. Inside the stone was a ceramic cylinder, and inside the cylinder was a metal rod that, for some reason, reacted to a magnet. There were also fragments of fossilized shells and pebbles found inside. The friends showed the find to a geologist they knew, who, after a detailed examination, said that in his opinion, this stone was at least 500,000 years old. Can you imagine? 500,000 years. If that's the case, then our find rewrites the entire history of human development. After all, how can we explain metal elements inside such an ancient stone? Unfortunately, we don't have a detailed description of this research, nor do we have the geologist's name. But one thing we do know for sure, the stone was studied by the creationist Ron Colley. He took an X-ray and discovered that the rod had a spring. So it's possible that this was some kind of ancient electrical mechanism. But who created it and why? The earliest depiction of a kiss. Are you ready to dive into the world of a real archaeological detective story? Today we have a special episode about the oldest kiss in human history. Yes, you heard that right. We're going on a journey to the origins of romance and possibly even herpes. Do you know where the first kiss in history took place? Researchers from the University of Copenhagen discovered its traces in Mesopotamia in the ancient Middle East, and that was about 4,500 years ago. Scientists say that people were already practicing kissing back then, and it might have even contributed to the spread of herpes. It sounds a little scary, but it proves that kissing has been an important part of our lives for thousands of years across different cultures and regions. Picture this, friends. In ancient Mesopotamia, people used clay tablets for writing, and on some of them, kisses are described as a part of romantic intimacy and friendship, and even our closest relatives, bonobos and chimpanzees, also kiss. Here's proof that kissing isn't just some human whim, but the foundation of our communication and relationships. But here's an interesting question. Could the herpes simplex virus have been transmitted through those earliest kisses? Ancient medical texts from Mesopotamia mention a disease that, by its symptoms, resembles herpes. Of course, we can't be 100% sure that it was exactly that, but the similarity is striking. It turns out that both romance and diseases connect us to ancient people much more than we could have imagined. The mystery of the Benin bronzes. Archaeologists made an unusual discovery in Nigeria. Scientists found that African craftsmen made the Benin bronzes from German ore. The Benin bronzes are a large collection of 3,000 brass figurines found in Nigeria in 1897. British soldiers seized them and took them to the United Kingdom. For a long time, scientists thought that the figurines were made from melted down rings that were used as money during the slave trade. But recent research has shown that most of the figurines are made from ore found in Germany, in the Rhineland region. African metalworkers made the figurines in the 16th and 17th centuries. Scientists analyzed the metal rings that Europeans exchanged for gold, ivory, and slaves in Africa. Researchers compared these rings with the Benin bronzes and found that they were made from the same ore. This discovery helped scientists better understand the history of the slave trade and learn more about how Europeans influenced African art. Today, the largest collection of the Benin bronzes is in the British Museum in London. Nigeria is asking for these works of art to be returned to their homeland. Now let's think together whether European museums will return ancient artifacts back to Africa. You can share your opinion in the comments below the video. The golden pectoral from the Tolstoy Mogila. This artifact, discovered in 1970 in the Dnipropetrovsk region in present-day Ukraine, is one of the most impressive artifacts of Scythian culture. This exquisite piece of jewelry dates back to the 4th century BC and was found in one of the largest Scythian burial mounds. The pectoral is a gold chest ornament weighing over 1 kilogram and about 30 centimeters in diameter. It is crafted with a high degree of skill and detail, which testifies to the significant development of craftsmanship among the Scythians and their cultural contacts with the Greek world. The pectoral is decorated with 3 rows of bas-reliefs depicting scenes from the life and mythology of the Scythians. The upper and lower rows contain realistic images of animals such as lions, griffins, deer, and birds, symbolizing strength and power. The middle row is the most complex and detailed, depicting scenes from the everyday life of the Scythians, people working with horses, women preparing food, and figures engaged in crafts. These scenes may represent allegories or illustrations of mythological stories related to the cosmology and religious beliefs of the Scythians. The mystery of the golden pectoral lies not only in its artistic value, but also in its symbolic meaning. It was found in a royal burial, which indicates that it belonged to a high-ranking person, possibly a king or a priest. The scenes on the pectoral may depict complex religious beliefs and mythology of the Scythians, related to the cult of ancestors, the afterlife, and the worship of natural forces. Some researchers believe that the pectoral could have been used for ritual purposes, symbolizing the transition between the worlds of the living and the dead. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, everyone.